Okay, so the transport layer we've seen provides communication between the application layer and the network layer, right? And it provides port-to-port communication between. We've seen that the addressing at the transport layer are port numbers. So port-to-port communication between two application layers, one at the local host, other at the remote host. And communication is provided using a logical connection, as we have seen before. Transport layers present only at end systems, right? Yeah. Right, recall. So go back to this diagram we've seen many times. So just to recall, right, the transport layers are present only at the end systems. The biggest intermediate devices, which are routers, have up to the network layer. So a transport layer feels directly connected to the transport layer at the other end, right? Which we have defined as using the term logical connection. The common language is virtual connection. The specific technical term is logical connection. So in this slide, everything should be reviewed. So if anything is new to anyone, please tell me. Excuse me. Change the pointer. Right? I've seen this before. Okay, then transport layer services. So the transport layer is responsible for providing services to the application layer using the network layer, right? This is also not new. And transport layer services, we've seen all of these before. So process to process communication. This terminology is from the 7-layer model, from the OSI 7-layer model, where the application layer is subdivided into 3 layers. So, but that 7-layer model, the OSI model, right, as we have seen many times, is that layering has become old and obsolete, right? Now it's the 5-layer model. Okay, so but this terminology remained from the 7 layers. So process essentially means application. In the 7-layer, the application layer was divided into 3 layers. So this term refers to that. But and then addressing at this layer are port numbers. Then we have seen this many times, right? At every layer there are headers and trailers. So there is a encapsulation at the sending side, decapsulation at the receiving side. We have seen multiplexing and demultiplexing, which means multiple application, different port numbers getting encapsulated in the network layer. So port numbers separate the different applications. Then inside routers, the IP addresses separate different packets. And flow control, which was not to overwhelm the receiver, and congestion control, not to overwhelm the intermediate devices. And then error control to identify bit flips of each packet in transit. Right? We make this blue as well. Are any of these terms, or is any term new to anybody? Any term on this, on the transport layer, any of the transport layer services, because the services are standard we've seen in many layers. Is this anyone? Please speak up. Please, I have not made slides, explaining each of these in detail, right? Because we've seen this many times. We'll just go through very briefly. Okay. So we'll go through. আসছে এটা। Okay, এটা একটা slide আছে last. Okay. Good. Okay. So first, process to process communication. So the first duty of a transport layer protocol is to provide process to process. Once again, right? Process to process essentially means app to app. So a process is an application layer entity or running program that uses the services of the transport layer. And the network layer is responsible for communication at the host-to-host level. A network layer can deliver the message only to the destination computer. However, this is incomplete delivery in the sense message still needs to be handed to the correct application. So this is where the transport layer protocol takes over. The transport layer protocol is responsible for delivery of the message to the appropriate application. Should be the. That's 1 second. Okay, sorry. Okay. So all this slide, I mean, a lot of text, but what it is saying is the network layer, right, has the addressing in the network layer are the source and destination IP addresses. So that will deliver the packet to the correct computer, right, the correct IP address. Now, from within the correct, obviously the client and the server, right, running multiple applications, and each app is separated by port numbers of the transport layer. So the transport layer will then look at the port number after decapsulation. The transport layer headers will be the source and destination port numbers, and that will be used to deliver the packet to the correct application. And here demultiplexing means using the port number to give it to the correct application. So suppose you're talking to the same friend using both WhatsApp and Viber. So both apps are separated by different port numbers, but they will, if both messages will go using the same source and destination IP addresses, because you're talking to the same friend, same between two same devices, right? Then the port, WhatsApp and Viber, the different port numbers will be used by the receiving host to forward the message to the correct application. And this is an example of muxing, multiplexing at the sender side and demultiplexing at the receiver side. Okay? Very straightforward. This is just pictorial representation, right? Domain of network layer protocol is inside the internet, and transport layer is at the software level, and that's a virtual connection from beginning client to end client. So addressing at the transport layer are by port numbers. So a process on the local host called a client needs services from a process usually on the remote host called a server. Remote computer can run several server programs simultaneously, right? Just as several local computers can run several client programs. Obviously, you have multiple apps open on your phone at the same time, all the time. Local and remote host computers are identified using IP addresses, and the processors are identified using port numbers. So we need second identifiers to define the processors, which are called port numbers. And in TCP, there is a 16-bit field for the port numbers. We'll see later that this is also getting exhausted, and in IPv6, this field is also expanded, which is necessary. So with 16 port numbers, yeah. Follow, please. Two applications are not allowed to use the same port numbers. Okay. Okay. So everyone, please take a look at, take a minute to go through the slide. I went through it very quickly, so please read it yourselves. হ্যাঁ আসছি ওটাতে, একটু ওয়েট করো, আসছি ওটাতে, নেক্সট টাইম আসছি ওটাতে। Okay. So the server must define itself with a port number, and TCP has some universal port numbers for servers. These are well-known port numbers. There are some clients that are assigned well-known port numbers, and some clients define themselves with temporary ephemeral port numbers, fake port numbers. And we've seen the use of these in NAT boxes. So, jeta bolla ami ei diagram ta. Hold on to your question. We'll see it in 2 slides. Okay. So server once again defines using a port number. Usually server port numbers are well known and standard. Then, and like the third bullet point is saying, some clients, standard clients, are also assigned well known port numbers. New applications have temporary port numbers. And how these are informed, we'll come to it. So let's say this scenario. Some client is trying to access some server. Let's say a modern day app. Let's say you're trying to access, let's say you're using Datacom on your phone. So Chaldal's server must have a well-known port number for your app to know, right, which port number to access. So when your client sends a packet, it will put the server's port number in the destination port number field. Its port number can be anything temporary. So suppose 13 is known to every client, right? There's a standard server for the app, right? Like I used this example in class yesterday as well. Let's say chaldal.com. So you know the Chaldal. When you download the Chaldal app, the program is informed of the server's port number, which is hard coded in the client. Okay, client chooses a random port number. So in the first response message, the packet, right? The destination port number is 13. Client port number is its random value. The client will see when it receives the packet, the server knows what port it came from. So in its response packet, it will reverse the port numbers. So every client process knows the well-known port number of the corresponding server process. While the client process or well-known client program can use an ephemeral port number to identify itself, the server process must use the well-known permanent port number.
Sir, আমার একটা question ছিল স্যার এখানে কি ডেস্টিনেশন নাম্বার পোর্ট নাম্বারটা সোয়াপ হয়ে গিয়েছে
Exactly, reverse তাই হতে হবে না, because in the reverse packet the server is sending to the client.
Okay,
so
sir.
the reverse packet, the source port is 13, destination port is 52,000.
স্যার এটা কি মাস্কিং করার পরে হয়েছে না?
না masking হচ্ছে IP addressing এ. This is port number.
জি স্যার,
right? Very good question. So typical packet encapsulation and decapsulation. Imagine this is the receiver. So the receiver has received bits on the physical layer, right? First step will be the link layer. Link layer will check the destination MAC address if it matches itself. If it does match itself, or it's the broadcast which matches everyone, it will decapsulate the link layer frames and send it to the network layer. Network layer will then match the destination IP address. Once again, if the destination IP address matches itself, or it happens to be again a broadcast destination IP which matches everyone, the IP layer will accept it, decapsulate the network header, then give it to the transport layer. Transport layer will then see what the destination port number is. Using that port number, give you correct applications, and the packet, it will then remove the transport layer headers, send the rest of the data to the correct application. Right? Assuming this is a valid destination port number. So the IP address and port numbers play different roles in selecting the final destination of data. Destination IP address defines the host, right? And then after the host has been selected, port number defines one of the processes on this particular host.
স্যার সিমিলার জিনিস করিয়েছিলেন না?
আবার বলুন, সরি
স্যার সিমিলার জিনিসটা করিয়েছিলেন না আগেও ট্রান্সপোর্ট লেয়ার এইসবের সময়?
মনে নাই। এই যে প্রসেসটা প্রত্যেক লেয়ারে সিমিলার, রাইট? মাল্টিপ্লেক্সিং এন্ড ডিমাল্টিপ্লেক্সিং, এনক্যাপসুলেশন এন্ড ডিক্যাপসুলেশন, জেনারেল কনসেপ্ট প্রত্যেক লেয়ারে সিমিলার।
স্যার মাল্টিপ্লেক্স এন্ড ডিমাল্টিপ্লেক্স এটা কি আইপি অ্যাড্রেসের ওই টাইমটাই হয় না?
হ্যাঁ, সেটাই তো বলছি যে প্রত্যেক লেয়ারে একই। ওকে, মানে কনসেপ্ট গুলো সিমিলার। সো এখন ওই যে ফাইনাল, ওই জন্যই এই কোর্সের ফাইনালটা কম্প্রিহেনসিভ করাটা খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট। right? Because the whole thing combines together into one picture, right?
স্যার ঘুরে ফিরে একই জিনিস আর কি।
সেটাই বলছি যে হ্যাঁ, ওই জন্য পুরোটা বুঝলে সুবিধা। আর এটা বুঝলে ওই যে ইন দি 400 level networking class we do detailed algorithms, so তখন আর ওভারঅল কনসেপ্টটা টাইম দেওয়া যায় না। Okay, next question of knowing port numbers. So the ICANN has separated the port number range into 3 categories. First category is 0 to 1023. So with 64 bits, right? Sorry, 16 bits. This is the last number. So first few are assigned to well-defined, well-known, means they have been assigned to the traditional protocols. You see, initially, once again, right, when networking started, no one knew that you will have mobile applications. So initially, it was designed with web and mail and FTP in mind, essentially these 3, right? Just web servers. So, and those have been given well-defined port numbers. Web server is 80, web client is 8080. Email is, I believe, 22 and 23, one for server, one for client. 20 and 21 are for file transfer protocols. And they're all fit in, 1000 is enough for 500 applications, right? One for the server, one for the client. This is enough, and no one imagined there would be more than 5,000. Then next, 1000 to 49, 151, these can be registered. So well-known international apps would pay to register them. I'm sure Uber has its server app registered, because you can use Uber everywhere. And the last range is for use by your NAT boxes, that's private IPs. Because these, right, are not going anywhere, outside your NAT box. So these are dynamic and private and are reused. So প্রথমে question ছিল যে if 2 apps use the same port number, what happens? So এই range গুলা তুমি select করলে, it is possible that someone else would select these. If you select from these, you will register it. It will not be reused. Okay. So 0 to 1023 assigned by ICANN. These are the well-known ports for the traditional applications. Then 1024 to 49151, not assigned or controlled, they can be registered to prevent duplication, right? If it is important. And the last, neither controlled nor registered, these are for temporary, short-lived purposes. Now, once again, please yourselves go through the port number slides for a couple of minutes. Make sure you understand this well. Askar, the class is short, it's about an hour, right? So there's enough time. Let's go slowly. Okay, everyone. These are a couple of examples for network administrator. Like in Unix, there are different commands we can use to, look at port numbers. This is more applicable for the lab. It's there, so I kept it. Is everyone okay?
Yes, sir.
Next, we'll move into a couple of technical definitions. Any question, anyone? Okay. Move into a couple of technical definition, which is used when you implement or do any research in this in networks. So once again, so we see that a transport layer protocol needs both the IP address and port number at each end to make a connection, right? Source IP, source port number, and then destination IP, destination port number. So the combination of an IP address and a port number is together called a socket address, which defines the particular specific application using the port number in the particular host using the IP address. And you don't need the MAC address because that pairing IP to MAC can be performed using ARP. And IP address obviously uses only one MAC address, but one IP address can use multiple port numbers, right? Because you have multiple apps running, but only one machine. So one IP address, one MAC address, but multiple apps running, so multiple port numbers in use. So together, the pair IP address and port number together is called a socket address. So the client socket defines the client process uniquely, just as the server socket address defines the server process uniquely. And together, client socket and server socket, so together the 4 coordinates, actually term coordinates are used. Client IP, client port, server IP, server port, or source IP, source port, and destination IP, destination port. These 4 values together is called a flow. Because if you remember, flow control is not to overwhelm the receiver, right? So these 4 numbers are specifically mathematically defining the flow. Suppose you're watching Netflix. So you're getting the packets you're getting from Netflix are coming from Netflix servers port number, if it's UDP port number, right, or whatever the application is, and the server's IP address to your own machine, so your own IP address to the particular Netflix client. Or if you're watching a video on YouTube, right, coming from YouTube server, from the server's IP address to your IP address to your YouTube client port number, everyone. So this is exactly the definition of a flow, right? And flow control means not to exceed the limitations of your client application, right? So when you look at packet tracers, if you look into details of a router, actually, if you look into, this is called a trace, right? You can have a probe in a router and you can actually see the header information of all the packets flowing through the router. And the header informations will be the source and destination IP addresses and source and destination port numbers. So you will tell, right, our, let's say, CITS at IOB, they can actually monitor the packet, all the header information of all the packets coming in and out of IOB. And that way they can catch if, any particular person is actually watching a movie and, hogging the network, right? Overwhelming the network, taking up everyone's bandwidth by watching a high definition movie at an IUB computer. So using the packet tracing, right, all the packets that are going through IUB's gateway server, they can see which IP address it's going to and which port number. Once again, guys, please take a moment to go through this slide. This is also very important. And especially if any of you go on to in graduate school in networks, these are the details you'll be dealing with. If you work in networks, there's a term used called 4 tuple, like multiple. When 2 values make a coordinate X and Y, right? 3 make a 3-dimensional coordinate. So these are 4, which uniquely define a flow. So next, we've seen this many times. Then again, encapsulation, decapsulation, right? We've seen this many times. So to send a packet from one process to another, transport layer protocol encapsulates and decapsulates messages. So transport layer takes the message, adds the transport layer headers, right? Gives it to the network layer. Network layer will add their headers. So encapsulation happens on the center side. Transport layer receives the data and adds the transport layer headers and passes it down to the network layer, who adds network layer headers, passes it down to the link layer, which has the link layer headers, right? And then the reverse happens at the receiver side. This is nothing new. যেটা একদম বললাম না, একই জিনিস ঘুরে ফিরে প্রত্যেক লেয়ারে হচ্ছে, বাট প্রত্যেক লেয়ারের মানে each layer has a separate responsibility, and this way we have the advantages, right? The benefits of doing this are abstraction. You have broken a large network problem into smaller problems, and each layer can be replaced in a device without changing the other layers. Obviously, if your LAN card is not working, you don't need to change your computer, right? You just replace the LAN card, because that will be compatible with the upper and lower layers. If Windows has a new version at the application layer, or every time you download a new app, you don't have to change your phone. And which is possible because of this smart design. This is pictorially. Here, just a new point to note is The connection is purely a logical connection. For multiplexing and demultiplexing, this is a technical definition again. An entity accepts items from more than one source. This is multiplexing. Delivers to more than one source. This is demultiplexing. So there is a detailed picture. Take a look at this yourself for 2 minutes, and then I'll go through it. So you see, in this example, suppose you are talking to two friends, excuse me, using 3 different apps. You're talking to the first friend using, let's say P1 and P3, one is Viber, one is WhatsApp, right? You're talking to your friend using both simultaneously. Simultaneously means, once you type a message in WhatsApp, then again in Viber, and back and forth. And you're talking to another friend using Facebook Messenger. Realistic scenario, everyone? Right? So your transport layer will encode the 3 messages using the correct source and destination port numbers, right, for these apps, pertaining to relevant port numbers for these apps. And then the transport layer will pass it down to the network layer. So here packet 1 to 3 different packets, right, with 3 different source and destination port number pairs. It will give it down to send it down to the network layer. Yeah. Actually, transport layer is physically sending it down to the network layer, but the transport layer feels that he is directly sending to the transport layers at the other end, right? Because he feels the logical connection. He is communicating with the transport layer. Yes.
Sir, আমি স্যার আমার একটা কনসেপ্ট ক্লিয়ার হতে চাচ্ছিলাম স্যার। ট্রান্সপোর্ট লেয়ারে ফার্স্টে মেসেজটা এনক্যাপসুলেট করে, দেন মেসেজটাকে প্যাকেটে কনভার্ট করে, দেন এনক্যাপসুলেট করে সেন্ড করে আরেকটা লেয়ারে, রাইট স্যার?
বাট প্রত্যেক লেয়ার কি হচ্ছে? ট্রান্সপোর্ট লেয়ার ইজ গেটিং দ্য প্যাকেট, গেটিং দ্য ডেটা, রাইট? প্যাকেট তো বলতে there is a packet at every layer, so he's getting the message from the application layer, right?
Yes sir.
Messages come, he is getting 3 messages from 3 different applications.
Yes,
so
sir.
he has 3 different port numbers pertaining to each application. So he will exactly encapsulate into the transport layer segment. And transport layer segment format is there will be source and destination port numbers added. So he will add for each message, depending on the application the message is coming from, he will add that relevant source port number. Then the relevant application it must go to, he will add the relevant destination port number. Right?
স্যার এখানে স্যার 3টা প্যাকেট, মানে কি স্যার আমরা 3টা মিডিয়াম ইউজ করছি এখানে?
আমি বলি 3টা ডিফারেন্ট অ্যাপ্লিকেশন থেকে আসছে।
জি স্যার।
সো 3টা ডিফারেন্ট পোর্ট নাম্বার দিতে হবে 3টা প্যাকেটে।
স্যার এটা যদি একটা
আরো যাই, সাপোজ
স্যার এটা যদি একটা অ্যাপ্লিকেশন থেকে আসতো তাহলে মাল্টিপ্লেক্সারে জাস্ট একটা
অ্যাপ্লিকেশন থেকে আসলে ও সেম পোর্ট নাম্বার দিত, তাইলেও সেম পোর্ট নাম্বার দিত প্রত্যেক প্যাকেটে। একটা অ্যাপ্লিকেশন, ওকে, সাপোজ ইউ আর রাইটিং অন হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ উইথ আ ফ্রেন্ড, রাইট, চ্যাটিং উইথ হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ, obviously you write one message, then your friend writes another message, then you write another message. So your transport layer cannot wait for you to finish writing all your messages before he transmits it. right? This is difference between chatting and email. Email at the end, you press send. So all your messages, all your data can be, all your different letters can be combined into a big packet. Here you might write one word, right?
Yes, sir. Still,
Right?
it would
So
be a packet.
হ্যাঁ, ওইটাকে ট্রান্সপোর্টার হেডার দিয়ে, ট্রান্সপোর্ট লেয়ার পোর্ট নাম্বার দিয়ে পাঠাবে। ডিফারেন্স হচ্ছে, if it's one app, then each message will have the same port number. If it is different app, they will have different port numbers.
জি স্যার, বুঝতে পেরেছি।
ঠিক আছে,
বাট স্যার এখানে স্যার আলাদা করে কেন পাঠিয়েছে যে প্যাকেট 3 প্যাকেট 1 একসাথে?
অ্যাপ্লিকেশন থেকে আসছে তো, সো প্রত্যেকটা প্যাকেটের পোর্ট নাম্বার তো ডিফারেন্ট।
ও আচ্ছা,
সেটাই বলছি, যেখানে ডিফারেন্ট প্যাকেট থেকে আসছে পোর্ট নাম্বার ডিফারেন্ট। সেম অ্যাপ্লিকেশন থেকে আসলেও ডিফারেন্ট প্যাকেট হতে পারে, because if you send enter twice, it will not wait for the second message before sending the first message.
বুঝেছি স্যার।
Right? So তখন প্যাকেটগুলো সিমিলার হবে, এখন প্যাকেটগুলো পোর্ট নাম্বার ডিফারেন্ট। গুড। তারপর ট্রান্সপোর্ট লেয়ার feels he is directly connected to transport layer at the other end, but he will actually pass it down to the network layer, who will add the source and destination IP addresses. So in this example, packet 1 and 3 will have the same destination IP and same source IP. Packet 2 will have a different destination IP, but same source IP. Because 1 and 3 is going to the same person. Right? Then
স্যার লেয়ার টু লেয়ার তো স্যার সেম পোর্ট নাম্বারই থাকে, রাইট স্যার?
হ্যাঁ, আচ্ছা, আরো আসি। সো এই ট্রান্সপোর্ট লেয়ার যখন নেটওয়ার্ক লেয়ারে দিচ্ছে, নেটওয়ার্ক লেয়ার cannot see inside the transport layer packet. To the network layer, transport layer, মানে network layer cannot see inside the transport layer packet, which inside has the application layer message. To the network layer হচ্ছে ট্রান্সপোর্ট লেয়ার একটা খাম বন্ধ করে একটা সিল্ড এনভেলপ তারা দিয়েছে। Right? Network layer has received the sealed envelope from the transport layer. Network layer will add its IP addresses, send it to the network layer at the other end, which will give it to the transport layer at the receiver. Transport layer will open that sealed envelope, which is equivalent to opening the transport layer segment. Because network layer cannot understand what is being sent by the transport layer. Right? Transport layer port number lagiye completes the transport layer segment, which it gives to the network layer. Network layer will add its own headers. So to the network layer, what is inside the segment is encrypted. By encrypted in the sense he cannot understand that. বুঝতে পারছো?
বুঝেছি স্যার, বাট স্যার এনক্রিপ্টেড মানে স্যার এটা তো এনক্যাপসুলেশন।
আচ্ছা, সরি, এনক্রিপ্ট বলতে আমি বোঝাতে চাচ্ছি যে মানে what I'm saying is it is a different language for the network layer. Network layer, to the network layer, the transport layer segment is like a sealed envelope. He will not open and he does not need to open that. His job is to deliver that sealed envelope, or virtually speaking, technically speaking, the transport layer segment to the transport layer protocol at the given destination IP, to the transport layer at the given destination IP. So he will transport it using the IP addresses to the destination IP to this node. This node will match the destination IP at the layer 3. See the destination IP matches itself. So he will remove the destination IP and send the transport layer segment to its transport layer. Then this transport layer will then open the segment, and inside the segment, see the port numbers. So to each layer below, what the layer above is giving is a sealed envelope, which he does not need to open.
জি স্যার, বুঝেছি।
রাইট? পুরো হচ্ছে এনক্যাপসুলেশন ডিক্যাপসুলেশন কনসেপ্টটা। Good. So client process has 3 clients running, P1, P2, P3, 3 apps running. P1 and P3 need to send request to the same server, to let's say this person. Client process P2 to a separate server, transport layer accepts the 3 messages. So the 3 process creates 3 packets, access the multiplexer. Then 1 and 3 use the same logical channel, mark the term, to reach the transport layer with many physical channels underneath, right? To reach the transport layer of the first server, when they arrive at the server, transport layer does the job of a demultiplexer and distributes the messages to two different processes. And transport, the second server receives packet 2, delivers to the corresponding process. So, a understanding gula for the final very clear how daughter, right? Otherwise, you will be found out in the Viva, right? Okay. Yes, please. Question. Hmm. Hmm. Right. Hmm. না, সেম পোর্ট দিয়ে যাচ্ছে, দুইটার আইপি অ্যাড্রেস ডিফারেন্ট। তোমার সোর্স আইপি সেম, রাইট? দ্য ডেস্টিনেশন আইপি ইজ ডিফারেন্ট। আচ্ছা। হুম। আচ্ছা, তুমি যেটা বলছো, সাপোজ একই কম্পিউটার থেকে, ইন দ্য সেম কম্পিউটার থেকে টু পিপল, okay, first of all, the computer cannot separate between between people. This is saying, suppose you are accessing two different sites on Facebook, two different pages, right? The two pages will have a, okay, so Facebook has the same server. The two pages will have separate files inside the server. Have you seen the request, which is a file directory structure? Right? So you're asking the server for two different files. Let's simplify it. It will be equivalent scenario. On the same website, suppose you're accessing two different images. Two different, right? Suppose not Facebook. Suppose you've gone to a news website, which has two different videos, or not videos, two images in the same HTML page. So two images are in two different locations in the server, right? So the request will have a link to the specific directory structure for that file inside the HTML code. So I guess for details of that, this is the first chapter in the 400 level class on exactly how to get a particular HTML page with links to multiple objects. That's the term. Right? Could be images or videos, yeah. হ্যাঁ, মানে এখানে you're saying যে the exact HTML page has pointers to different files and file location in the directory structure. Okay, okay.
মানে স্যার বেসিক্যালি এখানে প্যাকেট 1 প্যাকেট 3 তে যেটা হয়েছে সেটাই আর কি।
হ্যাঁ, মানে এখানে হ্যাঁ 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 মানে সিমিলার ওটা থাকা আপাতত। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, ওটাই। Okay, so we have done chapter 23, only section 1, subsection 1 and a couple of headings ওই পর্যন্ত, right? Because chapter 18 was big and in depth, so I wanted to give you time to study that fully. So that's why today's lecture is a very soft introduction to chapter 23, right? Sure. ওটা এক কাজ করো, if you want we can have even next week we don't have a lab, okay? So I think that might be a good idea. Let's have a tutorial in the lab, an optional tutorial in the lab.
Yes sir, that would be a good idea.
Right. Because we don't have a lab, let's look at the calendar. Yeah, that way you have more time. Obviously, earlier the better, right? Let me look at the calendar.
Sir, আমাদের finals 24th না?
24th, huh? So next week, exactly, 13th, 14th. So then we'll have 13, 14 lab night, 20, 21 a lab night. Both labs will be tutorial sessions, right? So you're right, মানে 2021 না তো last minute আমার যাওয়ার দরকার নাই, তাই না? Your homework question, if you do it, check with the TA on the 13th, 14th next week. Very good idea. And let's have the last week in hand, right? For any last moment issues. ঠিক আছে? And I will finish the syllabus next week. Yeah, so 14th, very good idea. So 2 more lectures. 23, to finish chapter 23 comfortably without stressing you, without over stressing you, I would need actually 2 more classes. And I'm not going to do that. So whatever we finish up to the 16th, at a reasonable pace, that will be it. It might be we do one protocol less than what I wanted to, but so be it. If so, so be it. So homework on chapter 18 has been posted, homework 5. Next week, I will post homework on chapter 23 as well, homework 6 as well. And once again, one of you suggested it, so I would recommend this to the others as well. Please do your homework and check with the TA on the 14th, not the 21st, on the 14th. Good idea.
So 14th is Kyobe, sorry.
Huh?
Can you repeat what's going to happen on 14th?
I'm saying on the 14th, during the lab class, we will just check your homeworks.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's optional. So one of you suggested, right? If you do the homework, will I check them? So I'm saying, yes, do it this weekend. This is a very good idea. On the 14th, during the lab session, let's do that. Just right, because we finished the lab last week.
Sir, আমাদের কোনো conceptual based কোনো problem থাকলে sir, how do we reach you?
Let's go up to next week, then we'll decide. Right? Obviously, I will give you a method of reaching me, don't worry. Okay. We have all of last week, we have free. Right? So these 2 scheduled classes, I will be definitely online for specific these issues.
Okay, sir.
Right, so you have 2 opportunities, and I mean, since you suggested we try to finish everything by next week, right? So we have there's enough time. And if you still need more, obviously the last 2 days, if you mail me, I will set up a time, right? So I will be available online, don't worry about it, right? As much as you need. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay. I mean, now because it's online, obviously it's a lot easier for both sides to be available, right?
So, can you post all the important dates on the feed?
Okay, so the official important date is the final, which is the 24th.
And the time?
12:30.
Okay.
And the others, I'm saying the next, the free classes are optional office hours, basically, right? Optional consultation times.
Okay, and they're on the class dates.
Say it again, please.
What time are those in, sir?
The usual class dates, usual class slots.
Okay.
Right? Your next class, Monday, theory and lab. Next week, Wednesday, right? Which is the 16th, then 21st and 23rd, all the usual class slots. Theory and lab. So those are for unless I teach something new, I will be available for consultation. Okay. Anybody else?
I guess no.
So the exam is 2 hours, right?
We'll see. It might be maximum 1.5, not 2 hours. Because I'll put you under time pressure, right? Intentionally. So if I give you 2 hours, I'll have to make a 4-hour question paper. So it could be just 1 hour with a 2-hour question paper. Again, and a viva. And this time, right, like I said, I might keep one separate question just for the viva. Okay. I mean, from your point of view, I've said many times, right? The method of studying is the same. Understand the concepts I've defined in class. The specific homework problems I ticked out, and then the examples in the lectures, the worked examples, solved examples in the book. And in the book also means the specific sections highlighted in the book. And all the questions will be from there. And then I will double check your answer during the viva. So if you did not understand, you will not get marks. If you understood, you made a silly typo, silly mistake, that will also be ignored. Okay. The conceptual ones, that's why, right? Even if you couldn't, write properly, explain properly, in the Viva you have a chance to orally explain, orally using sign language, pictures, whatever. Okay, but good to see you guys taking the initiative, right, to do them early. Ask me to if I will check your problems. I like this. So the midterm was fair, right? Or I'm saying, what is your opinion? Did you consider it fair, the evaluation method? Okay, yeah. So I'll try to do the same. Because, obviously this is new on both sides again, right? As I keep saying. But there are, now that we are almost at the end of the semester, I see lots of benefits to this as well. Obviously, there are drawbacks by not meeting physically. But with Dhaka traffic, right, this has benefits as well. In terms of the time and which translates into energy saving.
স্যার
Yeah.
স্যার আমাদের মিড টার্ম যাদের খারাপ হয়েছে মানে যারা অত বেশি ভালো করে নাই স্যার আমাদের কি কোনো অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট দেওয়া যাবে সো দ্যাট উই ক্যান কভার আপ দ্য মার্ক
করা যাবে না বুঝছো বিকজ ওইটা ফেয়ার হয় না তাই না যারা ভালো হয় তাদের জন্য ফেয়ার হয় না রাইট এন্ড দ্যাট রিডিউসেস দি যেটা বললাম রিডিউসেস দি ভ্যালু অফ অ্যান এক্সাম রাইট সো এটা হচ্ছে একটা হচ্ছে মিড টার্ম ইজ অনলি 30% ফাইনাল ইজ 50% ল্যাব ইজ 20% সো ইউ হ্যাভ অ্যাম্পল অপরচুনিটি রাইট তাই না আর মিড টার্মে দিলাম ফাইনাল খারাপ হলে তখন কি করব
জি স্যার
তো ভুলে গেছি 54 বলেছিলাম মনে হয়
স্যার 53 ছিল
53 ছিল তাহলে 53 মানে the highest was a 58 the second highest I forgot if it was a 53 or a 54 whatever that was the second highest
স্যার আমাদের ফাইনালে মিডের সিলেবাস থেকে কত পার্সেন্ট থাকবে
ওই পার্সেন্ট তো বলা যায় না তাই না আমি আবার সবগুলা কোশ্চেন গুলো দিয়ে ওর মধ্যে থেকে বানাবো রাইট you to study everything because দেখতে পাচ্ছ তো মানে everything ties together right
yes sir
yeah you know explaining where I'm explaining layer 4 but I had to refer to layer 2 so it's all tied together বুঝে বলেছে 90
স্যার আমাদের যদি কোনো গ্রেড মিস হয় 1-2 মার্কের জন্য স্যার
না ওটা ওই মিস হবেই সবার বুঝছো এটা আমি করতে চাই না কারণ যেটা বললাম আমি মানে 89 এ দিলে যে 88 তার মিস হবে 88 দিলে যে 87 তার মিস হবে সেটা তো করতেই হবে তাই না রাইট ঠিক আছে anyway now তোমরা মানে you guys are এই যে মানে fact that you're asking questions tells me that you are মানে you know enthusiastic you have a lot of you're taking initiative right you're responsible so then you don't have anything to worry about just study smartly এটা এখন বলে right studying hard is not a credit studying smart is the credit right যাকে এমপ্লয়াররা বলতো work hard এখন বলে work smart right so study smartly okay and no you know from your responses I'm happy right so I'm encouraged okay the other section I have only 3 people answering my questions here there's a lot more of you okay so just to end at least finish studying chapter 18 before next week right by next Monday at least finish studying chapter 18 because that is the crux of the course right the main you know okay
sir thank you sir
Okay, sir.
Bye-bye.
have a good weekend bye